Welcome to the IT Career Energizer podcast for anyone who wants to build and grow a career in IT, develop and improve your strengths and skills, be inspired and motivated by the successes of others, manage your career progression and achieve your IT career goals. And now, your host, Phil Burgess.
Welcome to the first IT Career Energizer episode of 2018. This week, I've decided to take a break from the usual show format by taking a look back at the first 8 months of the show. I'll also be talking about what you can expect from the podcast in 2018. So I thought I'd start by telling you a little about the podcast and how it came about. If you've listened to episode 0, you'll have heard me talk about the purpose of the podcast and what I hope to achieve. However, you won't have heard me talk much about why I decided to start the podcast, or how long it actually took to make the decision and then learn enough about podcasting to be able to plan, prepare and launch it. In fact, I can tell you that before January 2016, I hadn't even listened to a podcast, let alone thought about creating my own. Podcasts were one of those things I was aware of but didn't know anything about. But once I found and began to explore the podcast app on my iPad, I was hooked. I very quickly found several podcasts that interested me, and of course I subscribed to them so that I always had something to listen to while commuting or out in my car. I found it such a great way to be both entertained and educated at the same time. And early 2016 was also a period in my own career when I decided that I wanted to do something a little different and, if possible, help others to develop their own careers. But I hadn't decided how I was going to do it. After about 6 months of listening to other people's podcasts, I began to consider the possibility of creating my own podcast. The problem was that I had no idea how to. I then spent the next few months learning as much as I could about podcasting to find out if it was even possible. So by the end of 2016, I'd learnt enough to know that with enough perseverance and effort, it was possible to create and launch my own podcast within just a few months. With a little more research, I decided that the best way to make this happen was to announce a launch date for the podcast on social media, effectively creating my own accountability for making it happen. So I committed to launching the IT Career Energizer podcast by the end of April. I then set to work on making it happen. With the help of a few friends, I was able to line up some initial guests and began to arrange and record interviews in March. I also began to approach people that I didn't know but felt would be a good fit for the show, and was surprised and delighted by the positive response I received. This gave me the confidence to ask more and more people to appear on the show. The show went live in iTunes just before the end of April with the release of 3 episodes. My very first guest on the show was John Sommes of Simple Programmer. John provided some great insights into his own career and talked about the importance of relationships and referrals when job seeking. He also told us about the importance of self-promotion in career development. Laura Brandenburg of Bridging the Gap was my guest on the second episode. This episode focused on the role of the business analyst and how people can use existing skills to transition into a business analyst role. Over the next few months, I interviewed people from a variety of IT backgrounds, each providing glimpses into their own experiences and their views on career development and the future of the IT industry. Some of my favourite episodes featured Robert C. Martin, often known as Uncle Bob, Laurence Bradford, Kevin Henney, Emily Atkinson, Corey House, Mark Robinson and Heather Downing, to name but a few. In all, 2017 resulted in the release of 36 episodes of the IT Career Energizer, and I'd like to thank all 36 of my guests who've appeared on the show so far. Without them and their support, the show just would not be possible. I really hope you've enjoyed listening to the stories and insights of my guests as much as I have. As I'm sure you know, throughout the interviews, I deliberately kept to a consistent format of questions so that you know what to expect. There have been some great pearls of wisdom spoken by my guests, and every episode has at least one valuable piece of career advice. One part of each interview I particularly enjoy is the reveal round, where I get to ask my guests to talk about the development of their own careers. So what about the future of the show in 2018? Well, you'll be pleased to know that the show is set to continue. I've already recorded more great interviews with some excellent guests, which you'll get to hear over the coming months. You'll also begin to see more podcast episodes being released each week, being either career advice or additional interview episodes. I hope you'll enjoy and benefit from these additions to the release schedule. As well as changes to the show's schedule, 2018 will see a rebranding of the show, including an overhaul of the podcast website. I'm expecting this to happen within the first 3 months of the new year, and I'll let you know more in a future episode of the show. I also want the show to expand its reach in 2018, so that I can help as many people as possible to start, develop and grow careers in information technology. To do this, I have a few things planned. Firstly, I'll be launching a Facebook group for the show to share experiences and advice, answer questions, and to provide you with a supportive community as you develop your IT career. I'll announce the group as open in the first episode following its creation. I really hope that you join and find it a useful community to be a part of. Secondly, I'll be increasing my participation on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn and other platforms, and publishing articles and career advice on a regular basis, much of which will be aligned to the show's new career advice episodes, so do look out for that. And thirdly, I'll be working on some new initiatives that will be designed to complement the objective of the show in helping as many people as possible to start, develop and grow their careers in IT. This is something I've just started to plan out and will be updating you on in future episodes of the show during 2018. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for listening in to the show and for making the first 8 months such a success. When I receive messages of support, it makes all the effort of putting the show together worthwhile and drives me on to develop the podcast further. But I do need your help. To be able to continue to attract great guests, continued growth of the audience is essential. If you're enjoying the show, and you haven't done so already, please take a few minutes to leave a rating and review in Apple Podcasts on iTunes. This makes a very big difference to how iTunes ranks and promotes the show and will significantly increase the reach of the show to new listeners. Also, if you follow me on Twitter, retweeting and liking posts about new episodes of the show will be greatly appreciated. If you want to find me on Twitter, my handle is PhilTechCareer. Well, that's just about it for the first episode of 2018. I'm excited by the planned changes and additions to the podcast, and I really hope you continue to listen and support the show this year. But before I end, I'd also like to wish you a very enjoyable and successful 2018. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the IT Career Energizer podcast. To find out more about building a successful career in IT, visit itcareerenergizer.com.